you know why? We're supposed to be operating from the heart.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's just getting used to the new. That's it. It's not even about
Exactly.
I'm not saying we don't have I'm waiting for it to come on. We're live on 4 Facebook platforms and 1 YouTube channel. You'll see chats on your chats. You'll see messages. Is it Alyse or Alice?
Alyse.
Alyse. That's my family name on my mother's side. Alyse.
Oh, really?
Yep. Spelled A-L-Y-S-E. Either S-C or C. I can't remember because I'm lost my 3D memory. We are live on all platforms, all 5. Welcome, everybody. We've got a new friend, beloved sister. We're going to get to know her in just a second, but we'll be back in 1 minute and 19 seconds. How's it going, everybody? What's happening? I always try to come to sit in this chair and be as honest as I can. Let me just double check on the engineering. And so I just want to tell you that I'm a little bit tired and I'm a little bit out of it. But I'm happy to be here, and I wouldn't trade my place for anywhere else in the multiverses. I got a new friend here. We do. Alyse Young from New Zealand. First generation Chinese. She had somebody hit her up 3 weeks ago with one of our videos, and she found all the crazy people, so she's very happy now. And she reached out, or we reached out, I don't know, and here we are. And this is what it's all about. There's many, many divine feminines stepping up in this world after being suppressed, that energy being suppressed in all of us for so many years, so many incarnations and centuries and millennia. So we welcome it. Welcome to the show. Welcome to SOULSPEAKS 5D. Thank you for coming in and honor us with your presence and sharing space with us.
Thank you. It's a real privilege and honor for me because, oh, wow, I can't believe I'm on the show, but I'm really, really happy to be here because I've been listening to the content and, oh, my God, the caliber of real soul stories just really touches me on every level of my being, and and there are a lot of things that people have been sharing and have been talking about that I totally resonate with, but also I have a slightly more grounded understanding, and so that was the aspect that I actually wanted to share on the show, and because I'm an energy intuitive, and what that means is that I interpret energy back to feelings.
Yes.
And so from that, we create a language of love back to ourselves, understanding our soul purpose, basically.
Yes.
And so I totally get what people are saying. And I sort of feel like my mission in life is to actually help people ground. To ground. Yeah. And actually to give a simple explanation of what that actually means. And grounding. So often I will ask people, what does grounding mean to you? So you tell me, Todd, what does grounding mean to you?
I ask that same question on this show so many times. Like, people say, well, you need to ground. I'm like, what does that mean? And I get different answers every time. Most people will say, well, breathe. You can just go into your breath, put your hand on your heart, or you can go take your shoes off and go walk on Mother Earth. I don't know. To me, grounding is it's multi-dimensional or multifaceted. But I think for me, like personally, for me, grounding is probably laying down on the bed and connecting, taking a walk, and that's probably the two I would pick.
And those are all true and real. And so I try and impart simple exercises that will help people to understand what grounding is, because the truth is, if you don't know what it really feels like, you actually don't know what you're reaching for.
True.
And so grounding is simply embodying your personal energy.
Yeah. Being present with yourself, would that be it?
Yeah. And what happens is that people become ungrounded when they're sensing a feeling. So when they're sensing a feeling and they don't know how to respond to it, they just naturally push the energy outside of their being. And then you become part of the wash. And that's why people have this, they just get really confused and they get overwhelmed. But when you're grounded, so when you're embodying your personal energy, it brings you to a place of discernment, centeredness, clarity. Yeah. And so I would like to just do a simple exercise with you right now, because you said that you're feeling quite tired.
Yeah, I've had an eventful.
I know, I've been reading about it.
4 or 5 days.
Yeah. And so part of me was really excited, because it's like, wow, this will be really cool to help you to integrate what is actually happening within your being. Okay. And so
we've got to be careful. I'm being serious because
I promise you it's really, really safe.
Oh, I'm very open. Don't worry. I just want to let you know what you might be getting into. Okay, so
I already know.
If you've read some of the posts, a lot of those posts are from a year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and I recycle them on a daily basis. But because I don't think I haven't read anything in about 4 days, 5 days that was current. But I will say this: that if you've been watching the shows. I've had this huge enhancement or whatever of the divine masculine in the last 10, 12 days, which semi-climaxed, no pun intended, 3 nights ago, where the divine masculine energy presented itself in front of me as I was laying in bed and began merging with me. And it was very intense. That led to an interlude with my wife last night, which was hours and hours. And it's been like 10 minutes and it was like 4.5 hours later. So I went to bed at 5 and got up about 10:30. And there's just been a lot of energy going through. So I don't know what's going to come out of that. I like what you said about you get a certain feeling and then I guess in so many words, you kind of put some distance in between you and that feeling. I thought that was a really interesting comment, because I can see that in the patterns of our lives where we came from. And like with this one at the present, so I'm glad you brought this up. I'm not running from it. I'm just like wondering what the hell's going on here. And I know that's part of a renewed energy in all of us that's available. And I think it's a big step. And I'm just sitting here going, what do I do with this? So that to me, yes, I would like to ground that energy,
Okay, well, let's just do it really simply, because what I do is I just tune into what you're saying, and then I can sense how you're feeling. And all you have to do is just acknowledge that. But it's more than just acknowledging. It's actually acknowledging and accepting the what was to the what is. So the just is right now, okay? So for example, right now, I just want you to say to yourself, I acknowledge that I'm feeling really vulnerable, and it's okay.
Absolutely. I acknowledge I'm absolutely totally vulnerable.
And it's actually safe for me to feel my vulnerability right now.
Absolutely.
Can you feel the energy shifting as we're saying that?
Well, it's like I said, it's probably, no. And the reason I can't is because this is what I was taking through 2 or 3 days ago. Most of the time when people read me, they're reading the past. They're reading my field, but they're reading it like 2, 3 days, a week out. One of the things that happened in this period, the 72-hour period, was hitting a point of total vulnerability and lack of inhibition. Total lack of inhibition, total vulnerability combined in one, or met in the middle. So as far as being vulnerable, I'm really good with that. I understand the magic that it is ushering in. I've really got no problem with it. Now, I'm not just saying that, and I'm not in defense. I'm just saying this is a place I was about 3 nights ago, and 2 nights ago, and last night too.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Yeah, and what I really enjoy about your podcast is that you are very real and you're very aware. And so it brings the best out of any conversation, Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Not to say that I don't feel, I started crying on the end of an episode yesterday, and I had no idea it was coming. The brother that was on, his battery went out. He was from New Zealand. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did watch that.
Yeah, Glenn Willard. Yeah, and then he got off, and I just started improvising a little bit, and I had this thing about I want to tell everybody thank you for the continued love and support and contributions. Next thing you know, I got tears running down my face. That was a very natural thing. I didn't think twice about it. I just thought, I might want to get off now before I start, blubbering all over the screen, because I didn't have a Kleenex. But and I think this is, as the individual goes, so goes the collective. So I think there's a lot of this territory being, entered by a lot of different people at this time, and so that's exciting because it offers a lot of magic, a lot of alchemy.
As I work a lot with the inner child, because that is actually where a lot of our past traumas and hurts reside. And I just find that it becomes a language of love, because what it does, it actually teaches you how to nurture and to comfort yourself without looking outside of yourself for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is what what most of the population are always looking out for, that point of comfort from someone else. And when we turn back to the inner child, that part of us starts to feel full again. And to me, the inner child work is actually modern day shamanism. Yeah,
no doubt. And you probably know this already. I'm married to a practitioner who's been downloading this stuff for 20 years. Very deep stuff, sacred wisdom, stuff like many of the women around the world that have been in the background, they're stepping forward now and sharing the stuff they have. So I've done a lot of work, period. I don't have, it's like, comes with the territory over here, but a big part of it was and has been, although I haven't connected, it's been a while since I connected to an inner child, any age, but I can remember quite a few occurrences a couple of years ago that I had massive elevations and activations. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It's a vital part of our expansion, a necessary part, a part we can't avoid. And I would also point out that the teenager is huge.
Yes.
The inner child, but the teenager, this, as my wife pointed out to me, and our very dear friend, that the teenager is the one that started to assert independence, that started to assert certain patterns of behavior that by their own choice versus someone having done it to them, and so there's a lot of, if I think about my most rebellious, angriest period, it was in my teens, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. When I say the inner child, I'm actually talking about your inner being, and but and I love the inner child in the sense that when we see a small child struggling, when we see a child that is hurt, we naturally actually want to help them. We actually naturally want to be able to soothe them and comfort them, right? And so that's why I use the inner child, because it's the part of us that actually needs to be soothed, that actually needs to feel comforted, nurtured, and accepted for what actually already happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I'm witnessing is that there's a lot of projections from the hurts that have not been healed yet. Okay, and they come from our past. Most of them come from our past, whether it's this life or another life.
True.
And what happens is that people will get stuck in their stories, and so part of my gift, if you like, is that as I have the precision of being able to go straight to the feeling, and then we just give the feeling a new perspective.
Yeah. This is very similar to some of the stuff I've run into. The energy practitioners' language is not always the same. Their modalities aren't always the same, but the operating system is the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So let me ask you this, because this is really something I think that's very interesting right now and we've touched on it on the last few shows, and in respect to the inner child, okay, in respect to unhealed trauma, in the most likely the correlation between the two. In the last few weeks, and in particular in the last 2 weeks, there's been a tremendous amount of projection, in my opinion, in the light worker community. Yes. You got people literally calling people out on a very large scale. What I mean by that is people that have a lot of followers who are calling out others who have a lot of followers. I find that really interesting. I know that there's always chaos before, it's always darkest before the dawn. And I don't see it as a bad thing. I just see it as something very interesting and curious, because I've not seen that level of it. Maybe it's because things are ratcheting up. But is there a relationship or a connection between what I'm describing and what you're talking about with the inner child that has yet to be recognized, embraced, and accepted, and all that?
Yes, definitely. And also, I also look at the astrology of what's actually going on at the moment. And so there is also a planetary energetic pull for all of these things that are unhealed within ourselves. So in order to be able to expand, to grow, and to ascend, we actually have to clear a lot of the old traumas that are still sitting in the body. And what I have witnessed, because I've been doing this work for almost 30 years now, and what I witness with a lot of light workers is that they are very much coming from this space, and it's because they're not grounded enough, and it's understanding that your projections become the chaos within your reality, but also within the world. So I was really fortunate, because how I came into spirituality it was a rude awakening for me, because I didn't even know what spirituality was. But I learned all of this through understanding energy. So I speak the language of energy. And when I talk to, my purpose is to actually bring a language to lay people so that they understand what is happening with their senses. Because we're all born with the inner compass, but nobody's really using it. We just kind of fumble on it from, every now and again. And so that's why I emphasize grounding. When you truly understand grounding, you have a point of perspective of how to move in your own vehicle, how to move in your body, to understand that these sensations are communicating to you something. Yeah. And it's your empowerment. It's putting you back into gear to drive your own vehicle.
Yeah. That's a good description of what we've all gotten into. I mean, we've got, obviously we were creating everything on an unconscious level, and now we've hit a point, in at least the last 10 years. 8 to 10 years, where we started to realize that we are creating this, and now we can start to reprogram or transmute or transform, and have not only have a say in our personal individual experience, but to also understand that the highest contribution that we can make, the most powerful contribution we can make to the collective, is to be conscious, responsible creators in our own right, because it has a simultaneous consequence to the collective. As the individual goes, so goes the collective. So this is right up our alley.
Is right up our alley. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm a great believer of everything that is happening to us is something that we've actually participated in the creation of. And when I work with people with high drama, I remind them, you were born of creator energy. So look what you're creating around you right now. And if you understood where you were pointing your energy, oh my God, what would you be creating otherwise? So it's actually understanding how we're pointing our energy, and that's through our feelings. That's
right. Yeah, that's right. And the feelings is something that we haven't always acknowledged, or we weren't allowed to acknowledge, or we weren't supposed to talk about it. So then it became, ignored by others, ignored by ourselves. Obviously, I think the female incarnates, for the most part, had the higher intuition, and therefore they were smart enough to stay in touch with their feelings, or find somebody that they might be able to share their feelings with. Where the men, the patriarchal imprint on the men caused them to shut doors one after the other until they were totally not present or not grounded, however you want to put it. I think another thing that comes to mind when you talk about being grounded, and you made the, you alluded to where we spend a lot of our time up there. A lot of people over the last 10 years have been downloading and channeling and transmitting, being activated, remembering past lives, getting over-identifying with their skills and abilities in their past lives, incarnations, to the point that the human aspects, plural, that make up the human experience and the human part of the multidimensional team were being ignored.
Exactly.
We were disassociating with the human experience and all of its gifts and all of its levels of consciousness. So, I think that grounding. What I was going to say was a lot of people use the word embodying. I don't know if embodying is grounding, but there's something about walking the talk that, to me, carries an energy of grounding.
It's exactly what it means.
Yeah.
Grounding and embodying are one of the same. And what I've come to see is that we live in a very mental state because we're overthinking everything. I'm actually I'm very grounded, but I'm also a very rational person. But I also have very strong senses, so I'm quite often led by my sensitivity, and I've learned to embrace that. And as I've embraced that, I've actually learned to go into the multidimensional realms, and and to be able to experience magic beyond magic. It's I live off the seat of my pants. I actually want to share when I was living in Kauai.
When were you living in Kauai? I was living in Kauai. When were you living in Kauai?
It was 2009 to about 2014.
Oh no! I just went in 2018. In 2019.
Okay. So I had a very special journey to Kauai. It's a really long story actually, but I was called there, and I ended up staying there for 5 years, living 3 years in a valley in a tent, and living in the bush. And that's where I got
living in the bush in Kauai.
Yeah.
Dang.
It was a very, very special time.
Yeah.
And I realized that I was called to have this experience so that I could understand the multidimensional aspects of our being, and to be able to practice it in that life.
Yeah.
Because I was away from society, I was away from all these distractions. And so when you're living in the bush, you have to be very creative.
Yeah.
And and it was just really, really magical. Very magical.
What side of the island were you living on?
It was north side.
due north. Okay. All right. Very wet
Yeah,
too.
very, very wet. Yeah, yeah, but very
Very
beautiful.
cool. Very cool. You can't make these things up.
No.
So, so you had what did that do for you over there? Did it teach you to ground more? I mean, obviously, I think you would become more present because you have less complexities and less distractions, right?
So I think I'll just back up a little bit. So what happened to me was when I was 31, I had a rude awakening, and I was in a situation where I was having an energetic affair with someone, and it was something that I didn't understand on any level because I was happily married, but I could feel this person's energy in my space all the time. And to top it off, he actually worked in the same building as me. And after a while, and this went on for about 2 years, and then
Wow.
finally, we kind of met, and I just sort of said, I don't understand what's going on. And after a
Did-
few conversations, he said, oh, I think you need help. And I thought, yeah, I do. And so, which he referred me to a therapist, which I didn't actually even believe in. And then she could see how shut down I was. So then she referred me to a psychic.
Really?
And I thought, okay, when I met her, I just looked at her and I thought, you're a witch.
That's what. And now that's
I
what
was
they
really,
say
I
about
was
you.
really quite mean. I kept saying in my mind, you're a witch.
So
But
let me get this straight though. So were you in New Zealand when this happened?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so you're working in a building with many people, but there's a person in the building that's
yeah.
in your field all the time. You eventually go to this person over a period of 2 years, and you tell this person, "Hey, this is happening," and this person said, "Hey, I'm going to recommend you to a therapist."
Well,
Right?
it wasn't quite like that. I mean, we sort of, he actually made it known. He actually kind of made it known to me who he was, but because I didn't know who he
So
was,
okay, so he was getting it. He was
yeah,
getting it. You were not. You were feeling it, but you didn't understand it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
he
totally.
sends you to a and then the therapist sends you to a psychic.
Yeah.
Wow. Everybody should be taking notes from New Zealand. That's all I got to say.
And then, and the first thing this woman said to me, she said, "You've got great consciousness,"
Mm.
and I had no idea what that word even meant. And but in 1 hour 20, she told me my whole life and all the things that I would never share with anybody. And so when I left that day, I just felt completely understood for the
Mm.
first time in my life. And I thought, wow, she has a real gift.
Now,
And
let me ask you this, because you're a practitioner. You're an energy practitioner.
yes,
And this was it sounds like it was your first real encounter, even though you were on the other side of the coffee table. Um,
yes,
they talk about how the practitioners that come on the show, they talk about how they create a space of complete vulnerability, complete openness, and they invite the client to conjoin them, right? Um, so there's a huge level of vulnerability, um, given up, surrendered, and of course the open-mindedness. Now, my question is this: you went into this situation and had the type of results that many people have talked about. It doesn't happen every time. But my question is, who did it? Was it her or was it you? Were you walking into that environment very open at the time? Were you in a pessimistic, type of frame of mind, or were you open? Were you like at the end of your rope, hit bottom, and you're ready for some answers? You remember?
yeah, I was very closed.
Ah,
I was very closed, but I was very confused because I knew that I had to figure something out because I didn't understand what was happening with me in the feelings area actually. And because
wow.
I've been brought up very traditional Chinese, very conservative, and very insulated all my life.
Hmm.
And so these sorts of things I had no idea. But what I will say is that I have a very strong soul. so I literally felt like I was being pulled from my belly to go, like, someone would say this, and then even if, so I joined her school for 4 years, and for the first 2 years, I would lie in bed and I think, oh my God, I've got to go to this thing now, and I would literally feel my soul pulling me out of bed and getting me to the place. The first year, I wouldn't even participate. I would just sit there and watch. And I almost got kicked out of the school. But, what I could relate to all the energy stuff that they were talking, because I could feel it and I understood it somehow. And so after 4 years of doing the school, and I realized now it was actually like what do you call it? I feel like I was thrown in the deep end for a reason.
Yeah.
And fast-tracked. I was fast-tracked.
Yeah.
And in the school itself, we worked through our karma, so it was pretty full on.
Now, what year was this? Was it
This is 1990.
Oh, 1990s. Wow.
1995, 1996.
Far out.
Yeah.
Far out. Yeah.
And, back in those days, they did a lot of psychotherapy, which I thought was really amusing. But a lot of it was actually just channeling, learning to channel, feeling energy, interpreting energy, working through our karma, understanding our beliefs, working with the inner child. And through that, my natural shamanic side came through. So, for me, I can take spirits across quite easily. Mm-hmm. I do ghost busting. Mm-hmm. I can depossess people very easily. It's nothing like on TV. Honestly, it's nothing like on TV. And so for me, it's like these things are really simple. If you take it back to the basics, take the stories out and just go back to the basics. It's actually really simple and very safe. And so when people talk about protection, I need to protect myself. What they're really actually saying is that I'm very vulnerable. And I have a lot of unresolved
fear,
trauma, which I'm projecting to the world, which is now being mirrored back to me.
Yeah, that's I get that, and I get the part. I know when I woke up, I didn't take any training, and I was immediately encountering disincarnated souls, and I was taking them to what I realized now was beyond the fourth dimension, to the fifth dimension, to be healed, whatever you want to call it. These interactions, I mean, I had people, that would morph in front of me and turn into demons, in the physical. So there was some level of, what do you call, dispossessing or that type of thing. There was some weird stuff going on. But then you have the other part of what you're talking about as well, which is, get rid of the stories. Let's clear it. Let's bring it into alignment. Let's increase the efficiency of your time and your efforts and your energy. How do the two come together? Those two things. Or do they come together? Are they connected?
They are connected, and what it is that a person will experience, if you like, the evil and the darkness and what have you, okay? And then another person will experience the darkness as just hurt. And so what I want to say, and I think it's been complicated because of our conditionings of our lineage, of our culture, of our religions. And so however it is that you perceive things in life, which has been handed to you, which is meshed into your values, this is how you will experience things. Yeah. And it's part of it's what I call, it's part of your human consciousness. So what we're doing right now is we're cleaning up the human consciousness, which is different to divine consciousness. Mm-hmm. And this is why it's really important to come back to your true feelings, because your true feelings are always, always linked back to that divine consciousness and feeling. Mm-hmm. But it's the conditioning, it's the beliefs, it's your past, understanding of certain things that you are mentally bringing into the space, which is creating that situation for you to overcome with new understanding. It's always about coming with a new perspective, new understanding.
Yeah. And so I guess here, let me put it another way, and I'm with you on all this. So if a person is, I don't want to say that. I want to say it a different way. If a person is actively engaged in the transformation, their energetic transformation, which means let go of the stories, let go of the labels, and many of us, I think, are on that trajectory. Are they, as they come into further alignment with all of their aspects, are they or are they not more? Is there more potential possibility? Is it more realistic to consider that they're going to start having more what we call paranormal experiences, visitations, higher skills and abilities, higher sensitivities, astral traveling, bilocation, these types of things? Are these things going to come into the field of their experience? Are they more likely to, as they clear this stuff and come into further alignment?
Well, you're talking about the multidimensional being now. And yes and no. I think it really depends on the soul's purpose. And so for me, I sort of feel like I'm very grounded with the earth experience. And so I've always tried to maintain my spirituality in a very earthly way, because this is why we're here. We're here to experience this earth and the interactions of this earth, and to elevate us back into our divinity. Okay, this is just my perspective. And so for me, I also have done, I'm very in touch with the multidimensional side of myself, because I've been to Sirius, I've been to Mars, I've met with Metatron, I've had all these amazing experiences, and I know they're real. But it's not about being out there. It's about what is the wisdom that we can bring into this space and embody, so that we anchor it as a new template.
Yes.
And that's what you mean by walking the talk. We become the walking template. When I lived in the valley, we would get lots of random people coming in every day, and mainly a lot of young people. And, I would just... somehow I would run into them and they would talk to me. And what I would normally say to them is, I know you know, and it's okay. You came to do it differently. I understand that you don't understand how to go forward, but if you trust your heart and your soul, the path will open up for you, because the template lives inside of you. Yeah. Because everybody's looking for somebody to show them the way. Everybody's looking for the roadmap. But, we are now living in a time of creator energy, which means that when we're very present, we are creating this moment, one moment at a time. And this is why we will never, ever have to worry about greed consciousness, worry about abundance, because we're always creating exactly what we need in this moment. Now, I just wanted to come back. I'm sort of jumping a little bit. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, in one of the interviews, they were asking about. They were talking about building temples or something like that. Yeah. And I've seen them. So I just wanted to talk to this, because what happened was that when I was on this land, when I was working and living on this land, this person from England came and he did a workshop, okay, and it was using sacred geometry and that sort of stuff. What was really interesting was that I was called to go and participate in this workshop. I had no inclination of going, but it just happened to be on, and I walked into the space and I sat there and I did the exercises with him. And what we found was that the people in the workshop were annoyed with them because they weren't getting they didn't know what they were supposed to be getting. But in the end, I ended up interpreting what was going on. And then I said, I feel like I need to take you up to the glade. I don't know why, but I just, before the lunch break, would you be open to going up to the glade? So we went to this forested area, which has a big portal, actually. It's a big portal. And there was a Maori woman with me in the group. And as we're walking, I got the message, she has to take us in because it's their sacred space, okay? And so when I said that to her, she started having knee problems. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. It's like the past is catching up with her. And then she was saying, oh, you guys go ahead. I'm going to be lagging behind. She said, I've got a sore knee. And I said, no. I said, you have to actually lead us in. So then I just got her to acknowledge the pain in her knee and just helped her. And then she was fine. And then when we got to the opening of the glade, we could see all these Maori warriors. And then she goes, oh, my God. She said, they're all waiting for us. And so we went in there and we did what we needed. We did what we needed to do. And then at some point she goes, oh my God, she goes, it's like a temple. She goes, I can see this temple. It's like we're standing in this temple. And then it suddenly dawned on me, it was like, that's right, we are the temples. And when we energetically join together, the temples will show up. We don't have to build anything.
Right. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
And it comes back to your frequency. When you're actually connected to those frequencies, then those will appear because you're now in the frequency to be able to come into that space and for it to show up for you.
Yeah, that's right. That's why somebody was on too. I know this has happened to some of us too, where you're outside and you're looking at something like a ship, and nobody else next to you sees it, something like that. So I think that's why, I think it was on that show. Like, how do nobody really knows how this is going to go. But one thing's for sure, and this is what I was talking about with the experience of, coming into further alignment and then having a higher, higher propensity for dimensional experiences while you're in an awake state. Mm. So that to me isn't really multidimensional. It's just that now the human is at the party. Where it happened to me last night, where you're conscious, you're awake, you leave your body. You're no longer just conscious where you're at. Your consciousness is spread or expanded to other places while you're still there, and you have like several different streams playing. This is the thing that kind of really intrigues me is what happens with this consciousness now. What comes as a result of it being more expanded? Are we going to see these things like you're talking about and have these experiences where some are seeing it and some are experiences and some are not? Because to me, it's like you can't, it's kind of like when you get emerging. You get emerging with an aspect of yourself from the non-physical. Or even if you merge with somebody that, a beloved or whatever, you're picking up code and information that you're not even conscious of. You've just leveled up. And what does that mean? Does that mean that you're going to see dragon energy tomorrow when you go to sleep? Does that mean you're going to walk over a soccer field and a dome's going to appear over your head and the wind's going to stop, or a 12-foot angel is going to be there when you walk around the corner? I mean, I don't know how this works, but there's something about our elevation that's allowing for other dimensions and timelines to bleed through.
Yes.
And I've got to believe that it's just going to continue. So I'm with you on the power of our thoughts and the fact that I don't think we're going to have literally a hammer in our hand.
No.
I think we're constructing if a copy is a copy is a copy and we are made in the image and we're remembering maybe part of that remembrance is what's in front of our face that we just can't see. Now, you've been to Kauai, you're in New Zealand, and I know you've had some experience. I can remember being in Sedona and walking through a canyon and seeing the temples.
Yes.
You know,
I've been to Sedona too.
You know what I mean? And you're walking out there and you can see the temples. They look a lot like memories I've had, third eye memories, whatever you want to call it, past life recall of Lemuria, villages in Lemuria. It's very strange. Another example would be for the last 3 or 4 nights, I keep, my house backs up to a dry riverbed, so it's like a jungle, and I keep seeing this big female mountain lion pacing back and forth. That's there. That's happening. That's real. Is it my third eye? Is it my human eyes? Is it both? I don't even know.
It's you in your expanded state.
That's right. And I'm just saying that and of course, if you're with someone, which I know you've had this experience too, like me with Morgan, and you experience things and the other person's seeing the same thing you're seeing. So, you know what I mean? So this is like, to me, it's like the Wright brothers, inventing the airplane, or somebody breaking the 4-minute mile. Once somebody starts to do this and then there's 2 or more, I think it's just going to expand overnight.
Oh, totally. Totally. So what I wanted to also say was that when I was in Kauai, so I spent 9 years in Melbourne, which is where I started doing the healing work. Wow. Before that, I was working in the corporate arena, and it was on a trip to Peru where I saw Jesus. And I'm not a religious person, okay? Mm-hmm. And I saw Jesus. He was as big as the Statue of Liberty. And this was on a trip with Wayne Dyer, actually. Mm-hmm. And it was the very first meditation we did. And he was there. He was just welcoming us all into the valley. And so I thought, oh, this is cool. And I just thought that everyone else could see him. And so afterwards, when somebody said to me, oh, what did you get from that meditation? I said, oh, I saw Jesus. And anyway, I didn't think anything of it. But on that trip, I got a very strong message from a pastor of the Unity Church. And like there were 40 people in this spiritual tour that we did with Wayne Dyer. I probably only exchanged maybe 1 sentence with him. But on the last day, he invited us to a luncheon. And then he gave us all different envelopes. There was 12 of us. It was like the 12 disciples or something, And in the envelope, he had this little booklet. And my one was, you are a healer. So that was a sign when I went back to Melbourne to start doing the healing work. Because I'd been looking around. I've been looking around to further my learning and understanding about spiritual work, healing, stuff like this. And I couldn't find anything because it was kind of like I was, I sort of knew more than what was being put out at that time. So that's when I started doing the healing work in Melbourne. And I was running workshops, seeing clients. And this is all word of mouth, This is all word of mouth. I didn't do any advertising as such. And then in 2005, I went to Egypt on the Goddess Walk, and that was a huge, huge activation thing. Anyway, cut a long story short, I spent 9 years in Melbourne. 3 years prior to leaving Melbourne, I got the message I had to go and live in America. And it terrified me. So I just kept putting it off. And in the end, I had frozen shoulder. And I could only lift my arm this high. It was very painful. I couldn't do yoga anymore. And I was quite depressed, to be honest. And for 3 years, I kept hearing South America like that. God. And in between, I had made that trip to Sedona. And we did a road trip from California to Sedona. And on that road trip, I just this is where the expansion's happening. So then I understood, okay, that's why I have to be in the Northern Hemisphere. And so then I came back, and then after 3 years, I just sort of thought, you know what? I have to leave. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't even know how I'm going to get to America, because I didn't have a lot of money either. So I just said, I'm just going to say yes to my destiny. And as soon as I did, my frozen shoulder disappeared.
Wow.
And then everything lined up. So my life mantra is everything comes to me with joy and ease, which it does now.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting time. And, you know, I had to go to a reader in the end because I couldn't figure out where to land in America. And she kept saying to me that she wanted to take me by the hand, put me on the airplane and send me off because they're saying, go, go, go now. And I said, well, you know, I don't know where to land. And so anyway, we went through all the different states in America, and I already knew it wasn't in the USA. And then she said, well, where is the South of America? And when she said it like that, I said, oh, do you think they mean the Hawaiian Islands? And then she goes, well, is it South of America? And I go, yeah. And then she said, well, that's where you have to go. And I said, well, that's interesting because I said, I know exactly where to go. It's Kauai. Because I already knew 10 years prior that I was meant to go to Kauai. But in my logical mind, it was like, I will go to Kauai on my way back to New Zealand. And so once I arrived in Kauai, that was really interesting too. Immigration pulled me up straight away. And I was panicking because I didn't have a visa beyond 3 months. I didn't have anywhere to stay, nothing. And so I'm sitting there cursing the spirit guys going, what the hell? I'm doing this, okay? You got to help me out. You got to help me out. And then when I looked down on the chair in front of me, someone scratched out, Jesus loves you. And then I thought, oh, okay, it's going to be fine. And so then I ended up living in Kauai for 5 years. And that was the grace of God, really, because, you know, I wasn't really allowed to work there. But I knew that it was to have the multidimensional experiences.
Yeah, that's a place.
So going back to what I was going to share earlier was that one of the very first meditations we did, and it was to do some healing on the land because they had this horrific landslide that killed a few people from the flooding. So we were on this land, and when I closed my eyes, I saw all the grandmothers from the universe coming to the space. And I was quite overwhelmed because, you know, there was just hundreds and hundreds of them. And so all I did, I just said, welcome to the space. And I said, do you have a message for us? And they were all very sad. And they said, we've come to apologize. We've come to apologize because we never shared our feelings with our sons and daughters and with our partners. The world is the way it is right now. And I thought, wow, that's a really strong and powerful statement.
Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah. So for me, this my soul journey is all about honoring our feelings, understanding that our feelings is our point of empowerment when it's expressed in a timely way.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. I love that because I'm all about bringing it down to the human. And so that to me translates into, of course, you know, in the best of worlds, as they come up, we lay it out there. That doesn't always happen because we're not in the habit of doing that. So now what happens is something will happen. You'll get a feeling. You don't know what it is. A few hours go by. You figure it out. You admit it to yourself, which is the most important thing. And then I think there's a third leg to it as well because so often we have swept things under the rug. We ignore things. We act like they didn't happen. And obviously, there's a lot of repression, repressed feelings as a result of that. So I guess what I'm saying is it just seems like the energy is supporting this directness and this honesty and this new alignment with our feelings as part of our full team or full team of aspects. And that if something occurs, even if it's a month, a week, a year later, you go back to it. You can go back to a person as they are a mirror of yourself and say, I screwed up, you know. I know what I said back then, and I know what I did back then, but there's something about the level of a new type of redemption, I guess, a new type of integrity where we can actually share that with a mirror of ourselves. Because that seems to be a big part of this particular trip of these incarnations we've had on Earth. It's what seems to be a big part of it is that it isn't all just happening internally, that we're actually creating mirrors of what happens inside of us, outside of us. And how better to help that than to involve the human at the gut level, at the boots on the ground level, and have an honest conversation. There's a lot of power in that. I don't know that there's anything, in my opinion, that's more powerful in this time, this age and time. Is there anything that you want to do before we conclude? I don't know if you are still singing and dancing like you were telling me before we came on. But no, is there anything you want to do? Activation, blessings, information, more stuff you want to commentate on? Anything?
Well,
like
actually, I would like to share the grounding exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I have it on my website. It's on SoundCloud. And it's really, so those people who are listening right now, if you want to join in, but just to, it's a very simple visualization using affirmations. But more importantly is to sense your energy coming back to you, okay? And so it'll only take about 6 minutes.
You're
maximum.
good. You're good. You got plenty of time.
Yeah. So just be aware of how you're feeling right now. Make yourselves comfortable. Just taking a few breaths to relax yourself. Closing your eyes. Letting go of the day. Do you want to take your glasses off, Todd?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. So I just want you to imagine you're a big old tree. You've been sitting on Mother Earth for many centuries. You're very tall, you're very wide, and you're very sturdy. Your branches reach high into the sky, and then your roots go deep, deep, deep into Mother Earth. The roots are as deep below the earth as the tree is tall above the earth. So you know you're well and truly connected to Mother Earth. Now, taking a deep breath, I want you to gather up any energy not belonging to you, and I want you to breathe it out of your body, out of your legs, out of your toes, into the roots, into Mother Earth. She transforms us back into love. Taking another deep breath, you're going to breathe in brand new energy coming into the roots, your toes, your legs, your body, your neck, your head, down your arms to your fingers. So as you're breathing out energy not belonging to you. As you're breathing in brand new energy from the earth, filling those spaces in your body, renewing your cells. So just breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Now, while you're breathing, I want you to say in your mind, it's okay for me to be in my body. It's okay for me to have my feelings. My feelings are not bad and they're not wrong. They're just feelings. I acknowledge I may have fear of my feelings, but I am loved and I am safe. I am loved and I am safe. I am loved and I am safe. I'm now learning to acknowledge and to honor all of my feelings, to express them and to release them safely and appropriately. My feelings are just tones. I'm now learning to sing my song. I am present here and now. This is where I belong. This is where I need to be, in the present, in the now. This is my body, my home. This is where I belong, in my body, my home. I acknowledge I may have fear of this body, but I am loved and I am safe. I am loved and I am safe. I'm truly safe when I'm fully present in my body, my home. I give thanks to this body, my home. I now reclaim this body, my home. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am sovereign. I am source. I am creation. Okay. Hopefully you feel a little bit more centered, grounded, more energy maybe.
Have to turn on the, yeah, feels good. Checked out for a minute. Didn't seem like it was that long to me. Looks like we got some good responses here as well. Yeah. Very cool.
So I've written this book called Talk to Me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a practical workbook guide that helps you to understand energy. I explain the grounding, how to work with the inner child. It has suggested dialoguing for your feelings, and other concepts around codependency and that surrender and all that sort of stuff, new concepts about how to work with your energy for yourself.
Right.
And so you can only get it off me. It's $25 a copy, and I'll send it to you anywhere in the world. So you pay for your postage, and yeah. But this was a book that was my clients asked me to write, and so I just
Right on. Very cool. Very cool. And so they can get that through Facebook. They can contact you through Facebook or your website.
Or email me. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. From New Zealand. It's our new sister, Alyse. And thank you for your love and support, Alyse, and for joining us for the last 3 weeks. Hope to see you around more and maybe a collaboration later in the year. Yeah. Welcome aboard.
Yes, well, thank you for the opportunity. As I said, I really honor this beautiful show that you put together. It's really timely, very, very timely right now. Yeah.
That's music to my ears. I appreciate that. All blessings to you and yours. Until the next time, we'll do it again.
Keep grounding and stay safe.
All right. You take care. All righty.
Okay.
Bye-bye.